Welcome everyone to another podcast of Adeel Pirzada podcast. Today we got another exciting podcast with a very special guest, Martin. Martin is one of our subcontractor sub trade. He owns a business of a fire protection. But before I go into details about Martin and we talk to him about his journey. I want to introduce my co-host, as usual, Mr. Kevin Padillo. How are you doing, Kevin?
Hey, doing awesome. Thanks for being here, guys.
Awesome, Kevin. Thanks for being here. Um, Kevin will just do a quick introduction about Martin, what he's doing and what he's all about, and then we'll just dig down a bit deeper into asking him more questions about his journey.
Perfect. Yes. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pircon. Welcome to the Adeel Pirzada podcast. We go live every Friday. We're on episode 16 now, I think, and we go live every Friday. We are interviewing top successful people in business, entrepreneurship, real estate, construction, and super blessed to have a great guest today. And before I go further there, I want to give you a quick introduction to Martin, and as one of our trade partners. Martin Buffy is from France. He originally came from France 15 years ago. He started a company called Defense Fire Protection in 2022 and successfully ran a window cleaning business since 2017, built in the last 5 years, still going. Not as active as he is with Defense Fire. And we're super blessed to have him today. And thank you for being here, Martin.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, welcome, Martin, here. So it's actually very exciting. You're actually our first subcontractor ever to come to our podcast. And this is great because I think it's a real... I think hands-on experience what our audience can get like about how the subtrade side of the things work. We talk about construction, general contracting, construction in general, and our topic is construction and real estate in this podcast. This is the perfect actually kind of point where we needed someone from the industry to discuss about construction and the subcontracting side of construction world. So, how you been? How's your Friday?
Good. Yeah, it's busy as always, but, definitely can't complain. I'd rather be busy than anything but.
That's good. So, Martin, you have a defense fire protection, which is a fire suppression services. If anyone in our audience doesn't know what that is, so fire suppression services is basically when you install commercial kitchen hoods, it goes inside of that, right?
That's right. So we install the kitchen fire suppression systems, which are installed inside the commercial hoods. So what that is when customers have appliances in restaurants and they're cooking, the system takes care of detecting fires and putting them out. So there's two different ways that these systems can operate, and the first way would be the automatic detection. So that's what we install is making sure that the system will automatically detect a fire and put it out, as well as a manual detection, so employees can pull it and activate the system if needed. But so that's pretty much just roughly what the system is. But
and is that used only for commercial applications, or there are residential as well?
So in the case of the systems that I'm installing myself, those systems are only for commercial applications, specifically for restaurants and paint booth systems. So I do install wet chemical and dry chemical systems. So those are the type of systems I would deal with.
Okay. So Martin has this defense fire protection company that he started in 2022, and it take care of all the commercial side of the things. But prior to that, Martin had a window cleaning business that he operated for 5 years. He's still running it and had a quite good success in that. And then he kind of transferred himself into his real passion. So Martin, I want to talk to you and kind of dig down into what you've been doing, like how did you end up here? So just tell us briefly about your starting, like about your journey. How did you end up in Canada? Were you born here? Did you migrated here?
So I was born actually in Toulouse, France, which is in the south of France, about 2 hours away from Spain. And I moved here with my family back in 2008. My dad had a business in France, and during the big economic crash, we had, he lost quite a few clients, so he decided to come here. He's originally from Canada himself, so
Oh,
he
okay.
knew kind of what the opportunities were here in Calgary, and he decided to just bring the whole family here. And I just kind of started going to school here, and I feel like Canada is really my country at this point because I've
Right.
lived here for so long. I feel more at home here than in France at this point. But moving on, you were asking about how I came to be doing fire suppression. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I just wanted to know, like, where did it all start? Not just like about your fire suppression business, just you as your journey. So so I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. So you were in France. Where in France?
It's the city is called Toulouse. It's
Is it South France, North France?
That's right. It's South France.
Okay.
So we're about 2 hours away from Spain. We're
Okay.
about 2 hours from the Atlantic and 2 hours from Mediterranean. So pretty centered city.
Wow, pretty amazing.
Yeah, and it's it's warm year round. So coming here was a big shock, obviously, with
Oh, yeah.
the winters. When we came in 2008, it was the coldest winter, from what I've heard, in 50 years in Alberta. So we had a straight week of minus 40.
I think they say that every year is the coldest. They,
That's
like,
right.
break records every year.
And that's right. But I mean, the last few years, I think we've gotten it pretty easy. But, there's been definitely some hard years where
This
we've
year was pretty
gotten-
warm, actually.
That's right. Like,
Yeah.
some people are mentioning that the spring is coming, and it's hard to believe because I don't think we've gotten really that cold weather of the winter time, right? Where I started in on the technical side was since I was a kid, I've always been interested in building and fixing things. So I've always been taking things apart. We used to have old CD players that I would, take apart and try to find out how they work. And I took a program as well in SAIT for electrical engineering technology. I did take a year in electronics engineering technology, and then I transferred to electrical. Just because I have a passion for electrical systems and electronics in general. I do fix phones, computers. I do quite a bit of repairs. After I graduated, it was right around COVID time, and we had quite a difficult time finding jobs in the field and things of that nature. So I decided to get into the fire protection industry. I was working for a few years with a different company to begin with, where I learned the skills necessary to run this business, which includes doing inspections on fire extinguishers, recharging extinguishers, installing systems, doing inspections. So that's
Cool.
where I learned most of the stuff. And there was a lot that was taught through the company. I'm really grateful for my previous employer, AFS Fire and Safety, for everything that I've learned there, and my old boss, Marco. But a lot of it was...
Big shout out, Marco,
That's right.
if you're here.
And a lot of it was also... I was learning from the manuals, the different manuals of the systems. I like reading the manuals and seeing why the system operates, why it does, and why it's designed the way it is, and trying to understand really why we do the service that we do and the importance of it, right? So that's really what got me into it, and I started developing a passion for it because these systems are important. These are life safety type of systems, so they're nothing to...
So, okay, let me ask you this. I just want to kind of rewind a little bit. So,
Yeah.
When you came here, I'm kind of surprised that why do you guys come to Canada from France, especially you're almost in the south, so all the nice weather. What happened with your dad, or is there a reason why he decided to move here?
Well, he had an architecture business in our city that he started pretty much from the ground up, and he actually also did construction work. So he did a lot of renovations, and he did renovate that office space that he was working in. So he had a deal with his landlord where he could take over the space and he would get it rent-free as long as he renovated the space. So he was in there for 3 years, and he fully renovated the space. And he was getting quite a few good clients. Like this office was right downtown Toulouse, and but the thing is, he had a lot of government contracts. So the contracts, around 2007, 2008, they started cutting back on a lot of these government expenses. And he also, one of his biggest clients died in a car crash. So that was really bad luck right around the same time. So he decided, instead of, he wanted to kind of cut his losses and, come to Canada, where he knew, it's relatively stable.
Right.
Because, a place like Calgary, there's always recessions every few years, and, people are used to it. But in a place like Toulouse, people aren't used to, everything crashing and things of that nature. So it was a really hectic time. I mean, I was only a kid at the time.
So that's around the 2008 crash?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even when we sold our house in the south, the house was dropped in value by 40%, I think, a few months after we sold it. So it was quite, it was quite a big hit to the real estate market, obviously, like it did worldwide. And but a lot of businesses took a hit as well. So my dad just decided to bring the family here and, start fresh. And it's also, Canada's also better placed for young people. There's better opportunities. Opportunities to start your business, even opportunities to get a job at a younger age, like 14, 16. I started working at 15, in McDonald's, and that's something that, you can't really do in France. You can't really get a job before you turn 18. So that, I'm really grateful for living in a place where the opportunities are welcomed, and you can pretty much do anything anything you set your mind to, you can do here. This is this is how America is, right? So
yeah, 100%. I mean, there is special to North America as compared to the rest of the world.
Yes.
Like the Europe is actually quite advanced in a lot of things, and but I think it's falling as as quicker. It took a long time, for Europe to become something, but it's falling. Like some of the policies aren't working like the way it should be, and then it's kind of damaging people. So 2008,
like the euro was actually kind of something about the euro falling, or they combined the dollar and all these different, like French government, or I don't know, the European money system was changing. Maybe you could speak more on that.
So yeah, like, I mean, I think we're not like a specialist on that, but exactly for what I know too, the European is it's more like they kind of been there, done that, and now they're too far into some of the things that is not working, right? So, which definitely creates an issue for the citizens. So I actually don't consider, like, we don't see that many immigrants from like a European countries, especially like the west side of the Europe, right?
Except for like Ukraine and those countries,
like the
Russia.
Eastern Europe. Yeah, you'll see, but when you see the countries are doing pretty well, it usually holds the talent, it holds the citizen. If a country like not many people want to move out of there, right? If the government is working fine and it's things are good and prosperous, so 100%. Now things are moving. So this is what it kind of was highlighted for your dad, that he, the recession happened, and then he's not getting what he was in his business, so he decided to come here as a whole family.
That's right.
Okay, right on. So when you came here, what is it that you wanted to be? Like did you already know from day one, like, hey, I want to be in the fire suppression industry, or did you have to go through different hoops to get there?
Well, I never honestly knew about the fire protection industry when I first came here. I always thought I was going to be an engineer. I was always interested in, like I said before, like electrical engineering, and but I only did a diploma, which is 2 years, and I realized that.
Was that in SAIT or where was it?
In SAIT, yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah,
oh, sweet, good school.
So
right.
after high school, you went to SAIT and then did your diploma. Okay,
nice.
Yeah, but there's opportunities to go from SAIT and finish the engineering degree, but I never really saw that for myself, because I see that I'm not necessarily an engineer personality-wise. I'm more of a small business owner. And the opportunity that I had to start a window cleaning business was in 2017. I actually worked the previous summer with a small startup that was doing the windows, same as I started in 2017. And a lot of young people, all under 25, that started this business. And they actually pulled in the first 12 months over 1.8 million in revenue for that business. And it was really inspiring. So I decided, the following summer...
Billion or million?
Million.
Million, okay.
So just in Calgary and surroundings. So they were pulling quite a bit of, they had some of the top salesmen in all of Western Canada in terms of door-to-door sales. They all came from Canadian Property Stars. So I saw that and I decided, it's not that hard. I just have to get the equipment, a few licenses, insurance.
And that was a residential window cleaning?
That's right, residential. And I also got into commercial a bit. But keep in mind...
But that's the company you're talking about. You work for them, or that's your company?
So the company that I work for, I was only working for 1 summer.
Okay.
And
that's the company that did 1.8.
That's right. They did 1.8. But what ended up happening is their growth was too quick. So
too fast.
They had in the first 18 months they had I think they were up to 40 employees. So a lot of the employees were salesmen who were commission-based salesmen.
Mm-hmm.
So they were not getting paid a base salary or anything like that. They would get 40-50% of whatever the sale amount was. And then they would hire workers to clean the jobs for them. So that's pretty much how their business ran. So a lot of these confident salesmen would say, bring me 3 workers for the day and, I'm going to close the deals I need to close. And that was only for 1 summer that I did that, but I saw the business kind of spiraling downwards, and it's no longer around.
That company is no more around?
No, it was only around for 2 years, and from what I've heard,
yeah, that's
crazy how things change.
Is actually an amazing lesson to learn from, for the entrepreneurs who's starting a business. That too quick, it could be, quicker you go up, quicker you can fall down. And I hear these kind of stories all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Massive success in the beginning.
Yeah, because
but not sustained.
There is one big apparent reason. If your operations isn't been worked on and you haven't figured that out and you're just in a rush to go there and make money, you're leaving a lot of loopholes in the operations, which down the road it will show up, it'll appear on the surface, and then now you can't even resolve them because you're too far into some of the things you're doing, too committed on the contract, because it takes time to take care of those operations. So I don't know what was their reason. Could be anything. Could be financials. Could be many other things. But what it sounds like, this is what happens when you go too quick. Too quick, too big. There is a saying for that, and
that's right. The owner was really ambitious, but I think he wasn't focusing on the right parts of the business, which is a fair mistake. He was only 23, 24 at the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was...
Sounds like he was focused on sales mostly.
Yeah, he was...
Marketing.
He was a...
Not delivery.
That's right. He was a salesman, but what ended up catching up to them is the quality of the service that they were delivering. So they would do, clean houses until 9, 10 p.m. at night, and the customers wouldn't be able to tell if the windows were clean. So the next day they would call them back, and they wouldn't come back to fix it, and they already collected payments, so they're gone. And that's kind of the way they operated. And that's why I wanted to get out of it, is because I didn't agree with the way they were delivering the service. One side's the customer service, and then the quality of the service were the two things that I disagreed.
Right.
And just general honesty to the customers, right? So
yeah. So you joined that company for the summer. You got inspired by the work, and you said you want to open your own.
That's right.
So that's what you did. You opened your own cleaning window services.
Solid.
Mm-hmm.
Right on. So how was that? Tell us about that. How big were you? How did you operate? And
so this business was always kind of a side gig. I never wanted to do it full time, because for me to put all my energy into a project, I have to be passionate about it. And I just wasn't passionate about window cleaning. I did, it paid the bills, and, it was a good business, and I did deliver a good service to the customers. I had good relationship with the customers. They still call me to this day, and, hey, are you still doing it this year? And, I'll tell them yes or no. If I have time, I'll go do a few jobs. But It was never really a full-time kind of focus. It was more of a student business, and even when I was working at the previous company doing fire protection, I would do a few jobs over the summer, and it was just kind of like to fill in the gaps kind of business, right? So
For sure.
I mean, the first year I was running it, I had at one point we were out in Cochrane, and I still remember this day. I had 9 salesmen just running around the area and just canvassing the streets. But that was me trying to grow it too fast, because I didn't even have enough equipment to actually accommodate that many jobs being done. So and that's something that I learned my first year, is just spending too much on employees. I was bringing on too many workers to do the jobs that some of them I could clean myself, or I could get, these guys could work maybe a little bit longer hours and get the jobs done. And, they would make more, we would all make more. But I was trying to grow too fast, like same mistake as but I caught on to it early on is how I didn't fail.
Powerful.
Yeah.
I just want to give a notice out to people who are listening. I know we have so much range in audience that listens to our podcast. Martin is 24, and so far he's already built a successful window cleaning business. Well, he'll talk about his success soon. And then now he has a fire suppression business for safety. And it shows the young hunger and young fire that you could have. So Martin is a great example. If you're listening and you're a young guy, young woman who wants to build something small to make it something big, take some notes, because this is very valuable.
Yeah, and you got to start somewhere, and it takes courage. The first thing, right, to start something.
Yeah.
And you're not going to know everything all up in the front going into it, but you got to have a great ambitions and the effort behind it. So that's great, Martin. So you did that window cleaning, and you ran it for 5 years, and then you decided to open up a fire suppression company. Now, you were telling us earlier that how you were into electronics from your childhood, and fixing things, and so tell us about fire suppression a little bit, so our audience kind of get familiarized.
I would love to hear your passion around it too. Like because you were saying something about it earlier. I think it's really valuable for others to know. And I'm curious too.
Yeah, so the reason I'm passionate about it is because the systems are so important. I mean, there's so much property damage that occurs from commercial fires, especially in terms of restaurants with commercial kitchens with hoods. The hazard there is just so large that we can't be complacent when it comes to doing inspections or installing systems. We have to make sure that these systems are operational. So there's the side of importance of the system, that it's a life safety system, is what motivates me to make sure that the system is operational. Like even just actually last week, I had a customer that said they needed to have some repairs done to their system, which was about an hour's worth of work. And they told me, my business is struggling. I can't pay these repairs, right? So what ended up happening is I went and did the repairs for them just on my off time. So I just went and did the repairs for them for free, pretty much. I serviced their fire extinguishers. I did charge them for the fire extinguishers. But in terms of the system, it's so important to me to make sure that the systems are operational that I just went and fixed the system, free of charge. It's an hour out of my time. But now I know that this customer has the proper system in place. And when you have fryers, when you have all these grease, and oil appliances, you have to make sure that the system's operational. You have to make sure that you're doing your semi-annual inspections on these systems, which is a requirement. I mean, a lot of people don't think it's a requirement, but it is a requirement, and there's a reason we have to do it, right? But yeah, originally I didn't know about fire suppression before I got into it, but I was looking more at the fire alarm, because the fire alarm is also very important systems. There's a reason, fire alarm save lives, sprinkler save lives, right?
Yeah.
But I was originally looking to get into fire alarm, but the way into that was kind of working up through the fire extinguishers, the fire suppression systems, and then working my way up to fire alarms. Fire alarm is something I will be doing in the future. But for now, I'm going to focus solely on extinguishers and fire suppression because I can't spread myself too thin, right?
Yeah.
But it is something that, fire alarm is related more closely to what I studied, electrical systems, digital inputs, outputs. You have your pole stations, your bells. It is very similar to what I studied. Once I got into fire suppression, I realized, especially installing the systems, there's so much technicalities to it, and you have to make sure you're following the manual. It's a big manual, a few hundred pages, and you have to make sure you're following all the different specifications. And it has a very technical aspect to it, so that's what I really enjoy. Aside from, of course, the importance of the system, right?
So is there a course that you have to take for this in order to become a fire suppression technician?
Yeah, so the course that you have to take in order to do inspections is only about a few days course, like I think 3 or 4 days, a full-time course, right? But the biggest part is actually doing the field training. So I had a trainer, his name is Sean Reed. He trained me to do the inspections on these systems, what to look out for. He gave me what his experience was because he had, I think, 7 or 8 years he was doing that in the past. And, he just really knows the different types of systems. He used to install systems as well. So, but in terms of installing systems, you need another course, which is you take through the manufacturer directly. So if you take through a certain manufacturer, like I'm certified for Badger. So Badger is one of the manufacturers who, supply these systems. That means
I've
I can
seen
install...
Badger. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much in the top 2 systems that are all over Calgary right now. There's Ansel and Badger are the biggest ones, but the systems, you have to take the training through the manufacturer, and they're the ones that design the system, so they'll tell you how they want it to be installed, and that's a course that's important to take. But again, you need the field training. You can't just take this course and go out and install systems without actually having done it with a trainer or through a previous company, because that's really the important part. There's a lot you can miss. There's a lot of mistakes you can make. So it's important to know what you're doing.
Right. So so it's a training and a course.
That's right. Well, the training, once you get the course, technically you're able to just go out and do your own inspections.
I see. And how long is the course?
So the course for the inspections is I think it's 3 to 4 days, but the one for the manufacturer is only 2 days, I believe.
So for the fire suppression.
That's right. And then for the fire extinguishers, there's a separate course as well, and that's I believe a 3-day course.
Okay, right on. So you knew you were kind of like passionate around that, and you kind of got into it, looking at your long-term goal, ending up as in the fire alarm. So this is one of the first initial steps that you needed to take.
That's right.
This is a side note. I kind of just want to take a fire extinguisher and spray someone one day for fun. I don't know if that's okay.
One of my dad's buddy did that to me one time. He sprayed me I was up on a ladder, and he just sprayed me right on the face. Once you taste that powder, you never forget the taste.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I hope you don't have to do that, Kevin. You'll get us in trouble. Okay, so this actually tells me how much something is meaningful when somebody comes and talk about their passion and they exactly wanting to do around their passion, which is the very big thing. It's a key thing for starting anything. I honestly would say personally, and I had this discussion with Martin too the other day. We were discussing how a passion is so much important to do what you want to do, because business world is very tough. It's very hard. Business isn't easy. Isn't made for easy people. If you want to do it properly, and then if your passion element isn't there, and let's say it was just the money or I don't know, fame. I don't know there's much fame in it anyway, but right, unless you're some sports celebrity or big, big screen celebrity. There's a lot of eating dirt before you do anything, before you get anywhere. So the passion is the big key that plays in a role. If it's in there,
I think Martin could be like Pete the plumber or something. that level
You could
fame,
have
you
your
know what I mean?
franchise. You could have your franchise.
That's right.
one
Well,
day.
I hope I can be like Pete the plumber. I really respect what he's built, and the business he's built is really amazing. I've seen him in interviews before, and he's really stand up guy, and he's really organized and he knows what he's doing. One of the ones I look up to in the fire protection industry would be Rob Reed from Bison Fire, who's he started the business I think about 20 years ago in the early 2000s, and
Wow.
now I think he's at 2 or 3 locations, and he's over 100 employees. And he's built quite a big business, and they have a solid reputation, right? That's how you get there, is through building the solid reputation. You give quality of service, you have good customer service, you're a reliable and honest company. You don't cheat your customers, or you don't cut corners when doing the service. Those are the things that matter.
Yeah. So, so doing this fire suppression, well, what is in the plans? Like, what's your a year plan, 2 year plan, 3 year plan? Is there something that you have written down that you're following to, or is this something kind of free flow?
Yeah, so right now the goal is to get to a commercial shop. So right now I'm running a fire extinguisher shop. I got a fully certified shop, and that is being garage run at the moment. But I'm planning that in the next year or so I should be able to set up my shop, and have an office where customers can come and drop off extinguishers. Stop by if they have any questions. Speak to our team, and I also want to get someone doing sales for the business, because one thing I see I'm going to be limited on time is, on the sales aspect. I don't have that much time to do the sales, because once I close deals, I have to physically do the work myself. So I have to make sure that I can get someone who can do the sales, and I can delegate that aspect of the work to them. Of course, I'll always be doing sales. There's always customers that will be calling me and everything, but I need to make sure that I can focus my time on the technical aspect of the work, and someone can be out there bringing the business. And then after that, I can look at bringing a technician. So within a year, I would like to see the business in a year's time. It might sound a bit ambitious, but I do want to have a commercial shop. So I'd start with a smaller shop, maybe a 2-year lease, and look at bringing a salesman on the team, look at bringing a single technician, and then have a team of 3 because obviously I just started the business. So it's just myself right now. But what I want to get to, like I said, is that team of 3 where we can work closely together, and we all know what's going on. We all know what we're doing. And that's how we can achieve what we want to achieve. And then as far as 3-year, I do want to set up, first of all, I want to have a shop that has people there during business hours, 40 hours a week. I want to have a shop technician. I want to have a receptionist full-time. And that ensures that the customers know it's a reliable business they can come to, and with any of their needs. And they'll always have someone there that can take care of the extinguishers, answer any questions, supply safety products, whatever it is they require. We will have a team there that can service it or help them with it, right? And
Gotcha.
that's the plan for 3 years. If I can get there in 3 years, I will be blown away, And
Don't say if, when you get there.
Oh yes, I know. That's the thing, is I have the ambition, but I'm setting timelines, and I'm doing my very best to meet the timelines. But I'm not gonna kill myself if I don't meet the timelines. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna beat myself up, but I'm just gonna keep working to achieve those goals, right?
Yeah. No, that's pretty solid. That's amazing. What you just said, you're actually kind of not even doing what you're doing, but you got something planned, so you want to grow the business, and you kind of have the steps laid out, what exactly you want out of it and what are the timelines. So that's pretty solid, because a lot of people will miss that, will kind of not know exactly where they're going, where they want to be, or at least in numbers, knowing exactly what you need, how many people, how big of a space, and what exactly you're doing. So that's pretty solid, Martin. So I think you're somewhat, even though you're very new to this, I don't think it would be wrong to say that even though this is a new business, you are experienced in the business world because of your window cleaning business. So you have that business mentality and entrepreneurship background.
Yeah. I want to cut in because this is really interesting. I think Adeel has some very good insights. And there was a discussion we had. It was a long convo a couple days ago. Martin came down to our office to discuss. And the topic is about hiring too early or knowing what to hire. And I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs that listen to this and they maybe have that question, hey, what should be the next people move that I should have in my business? What should be the next investment? So I'm really curious, Adeel, on what you think about like maybe what Martin's strategy is, or in general, like what should an entrepreneur do when hiring someone?
I think in our last podcast, it was with Ulka. So we talk about mindset. That's the big thing. Like there are things that you require in order to start a business. Like you got to have a motivation, you got to have the mindset, you need to have a passion for it and work limitless effort. There's tons of things that are required to get started. But I'm assuming you got all those and you're starting. So that's what I discussed, 3 L's, right? So you need that triple L. Number one is the learning. So you got to be able to learn. So when you're like, Martin is actually a perfect example. And if we chase him down for next 3 years, we'll see how entrepreneurship, the journey goes and starting a business basically. Because the first you got to do the learning. You're learning yourself. You're experiencing different things. You got to have different experiences. You got to be able to do different random jobs. Actually, it's good to stay in your lane, and you should be, but within your lane, so within your industry, try out all the different jobs in a way that you get a job maybe where you work at night and it's a 24-hour kind of work that needs to get done, and a job where maybe it's 2 hours. Maybe a job that's out of the town and completely different, and a job that you can do all the time. So have various jobs under you, and that would be your learning. Once you have learned, now it's time for leverage. So you hire someone, and exactly what Martin just laid it out there, that he's going to hire a person, a technician under him. And exactly, that's where the leverage comes in.
No, a sales guy. I think it was sales.
Well, he wants a sales guy and a technician, right? So
That's right.
I'm focusing on the operations because like you need so many things. There's sales, marketing, the customer service, there's accounting, like there's so much. But if you just kind of looked at 3 L's, you learn it the best possible you can with the maximum exposure that you can get.
Step 1, learn.
Yeah. Number 2 is leverage. So now you got to transfer all that to someone else. And the more the exposure you had, more the different things you have done, more you have to actually transfer it off to someone, right? And then more you can actually train them and monitor them, because you not only need to tell someone how to do it, you also need to check whatever they've done it right. And if you haven't tried something yourself, right? So you didn't do the learning, and now it comes to leverage, which you can, but I'm talking about a small business, trying like where you're staying small and safe, because this is very important for safety. You could grow really fast. You don't need to know everything. Hire a whole bunch of people and they know a whole bunch of stuff that you don't know. But if you're a small business, there is a big chance of failing because you're leveraging on people that there is no way you can control and monitor. You cannot tell if they're doing it right or wrong. And especially if you're that size, it becomes an issue. Because if you haven't done it yourself, if you didn't do the first L yourself, the learning, how are you going to leverage in a way where you know if it's done right or not?
That's right.
Yeah. So leverage.
For sure.
So leverage now, once you leverage it, you can grow that now. Then you can actually have people, have your best technician that you know is the best guy, and he's looked after the things. Now make him the leverage. So have him, maybe have someone working under him, and now he can now you can try different things, bigger things that nobody has done it. But there is someone constantly looking and checking that whatever is being done is going to be still under the guidelines that your company laid out, right?
That's right.
If there's a certain way of reaching the customer and servicing them, and you tried all of a sudden this new thing, now you have more team to kind of power you up, and then you can, even if things go out of hand, you can control it. So that would be the best time to teach someone and then let them teach other people, and then you grow. And then the last L is the leadership. So after you're done, you know what to do. You got people and they know what to do. Now you got to lead the whole team and take them towards success. So yeah, those are the three keys, I would say. There's so many things, right? But those, if you want to put simple and put it in 3 departments, that's where I put it.
So just to recap on that, everyone, 3 L's: learn, leverage, lead. 3 L's to grow and expand your business. Super valuable. I know it's very simple, but that can actually help a lot.
Yeah.
I've experienced a lot of different failures with my own business. Like I used to have a marketing agency years ago. It was okay. We did okay. We made about 6 figures in revenue until I hired too fast. I had a bunch of virtual assistants in the Philippines. We leveraged them too much. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about lead gen. I leveraged them to do the lead generation. But where it failed was in between the leverage and the leadership was where I had failure, is where I kind of led the team when I thought I had enough revenue to pay, but I didn't. And it just ended up getting into some nasty issues. So that's a big lesson there.
Operations.
Big operations.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot from Adeel on how he runs Pircon, because as I work under him and I follow his leadership, and I'm learning the construction, and he's leveraging my sales ability, my marketing ability. Now I follow his leadership, and as he leads me and teaches me about construction.
Yeah,
So it's powerful.
another important thing is you got 3 departments. Every business had 3 major departments. It's marketing, so sales, and then you got operations, so what makes money. So one brings the money, one makes the money, and one monitors the money, which is accounting, right? So the first thing you got to pay attention to, obviously marketing all day. You got to get your name out. That's how you're going to get your services out. And that's how people are going to know you and contact and talk to you. But I would say especially if you got the passion involved, if you had kind of the same runway that I did, you're really passionate about what you're doing. And first thing you got to do, and you would naturally actually will come out of you, is if you're that technician, if you're that passionate person that likes the trade, is operations. Get your operations 100% in control, and then you can invest and maximize on the other 2. Right?
I agree with that.
Yeah. If you don't have an operations, that's what we're hearing. Like the story Kevin kind of shared, the one we talked earlier about, a window cleaning company. If you don't have your operations in line, and then you started growing the other bodies of the company, or even then you're gonna have issues. You'll have a lot of work, but no one to do it, basically.
Yeah, and it's also about the management as well, right? Like how's the manager dealing with the team, and how's the company structured and organized? Like you're saying, operations. That's so important. You can easily fail if you don't have those things.
Yeah.
So
yeah. You can bring money all day, but if you don't know how to handle it, right? If you can't generate it, you can't win. You can't win on a lot of those things. So it's very important you do that. So sounds like, Martin, you're in the right track. You got a right planning what you're doing. Promoting your business, and it sounds like you're doing a lot of work yourself right now, but you got a big goals, big ambition. So and you have divided into phases and how you're going to reach it. I just want to know, other than like you got this fire suppression, and by the way, we rendered services from you, and it was great. It was great working with you, the communication, and then the time. Every project comes with a lot of surprises. If you have the team back up, if you have all your partners, your trade partners, your subcontractors, your labor working with you, and we all have one goal to reach to the finish line, you always come out of it successful.
That's right.
If you don't share the same goal and mentality, that's where the issues start happening, and then you start having some communication issues as well. So as long as the vision is clear that what we need, what we're here for, what we need to get, and where we need to go after that, That's what matters. So, other than your passion in fire suppression, do you have other passion in other things?
So, like I said before, I like fixing. I like fixing and repairing things. So I've learned how to do repairs on cars, phones, computers. Also doing some software, programming, things of that nature. But which is all things that I've also was able to enrich my knowledge through my schooling. Going to SAIT, we did some programming. We learned how to fix, electronics and stuff like that. So, doing soldering and, that's things that I like doing on my off time. Like, I always have different car projects going on. I'm always, fixing different cars. Like, sometime I help some buddies to fix cars, even if it's just doing brakes or oil change, stuff like that. Like, guys that don't know how to do it, I think it's important to learn those basic things and just kind of get familiar with it.
Especially car stuff. Like, you're always driving.
That's right.
We all need to know how to change your oil and change your tire.
Yeah, and something.
I don't recommend it.
You would?
I wouldn't recommend it. I have a friend who's very car handy. Like, he's a mechanic. And then he changed oil in his Porsche and it just went broke in his garage. So
well, in those fancy Euro cars, it can get a lot more complex for simple things.
He's like trying to save $80, cost him $80,000. So
oh wow, yeah,
failure, dude, failure.
Well, the only thing. Yeah, the only thing I'm going off of is like something my dad always told us is you should have a basic understanding of the things you use every day. So
that's a good thing.
Yeah, so
my dad would say the same thing.
I don't mean it towards you and by anyone. I just saying like it was just funny, but if your passion is there, honestly, I'm like, who cares? Screw it up, right? Like, redo it. If as long as your passion is there. There is an unlimited amount of work that I've probably completed and never got paid for is because of my passion. It's like, oh, I need a design. It's like, sure, I'll buy you coffee. Like, can you meet me in Tim Hortons? And I'm like, sure. Like, I'll just do it for fun.
But like what Martin was saying was really interesting because like just getting a basic understanding, even if I'm not passionate about it. Like you love cars. I'm not as passionate about cars, but I know I need to. At some point, because let's say I'm in an emergency, and I need to deal with my car, and I'm like stuck in the middle of between Calgary and like none of it, man, or something. Like I'm stuck, man, and I'm cold. I gotta figure it out.
Yeah, you gotta know something like changing tires.
Preparedness, like survival.
Yeah, that's true.
That's really
basic skills.
Is that something you learned from your dad? Is that
that's something I learned from my dad, but mainly what I learned from him is how to learn to do things. So like being self-taught. So, if you don't know something, you just watch YouTube videos and learn how to do it through like trial and error. So that's one really valuable skill I got from him is because that's exactly the way he is. Like he's built some crazy projects before. Like even he renovated a house in back when we live in the south of France. And he did this system where he built this entire chimney from scratch. So like a wood fireplace. And he actually made it so that he had layers between the actual chimney itself and he had kind of like a second chimney going through. I don't understand fully how it works, but he had heat that was being moved through that space, but it wasn't smoke, it was just heat. And he had a ventilation system actually that pushed that heat all around the house, and we didn't need to have a furnace or anything. So in the winter, it doesn't get as cold as here, but it was probably around 5-10 degrees plus 5 or 10. Cool. So it's warm, but we always had heat going through around the house, and that's something he learned just by looking at YouTube videos and reading like architecture books and stuff like that. And so that's one thing I learned is just
that's serious engineering right there, bro.
Well, he took some courses actually for architecture. That's what his business was as well, was architecture. So he was making a lot of plans for like big projects and stuff like that. And he was also doing side projects. So he would do just a home renovations. Like we bought a house that was from the 1830s and he just fully renovated it. Like a lot of stuff was still like the original materials. Like the insulation was pretty much non-existent. And
Napoleon's house or something.
They used to build it was actually cool because we peeled off one of the walls and we saw like in the concrete someone had carved like I was here and this date 1837 or something.
Wow.
I'm like, wow, that's insane. That's older than Calgary, or that's
Yeah.
even older than Canada when Canada
Yeah.
was formed, right?
Yeah,
Like
you
that's-
won't find it here for sure.
Which king was that? Like King, well, not King Louis. I'm sure he was like a different
Uh,
king.
1830s?
Yeah, I don't know. What was
No, that was
King almost kicked out.
yeah.
Napoleon?
Yeah.
Napoleon
Yeah,
was there.
that's right.
Emperor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what about your dad? Is he
History.
doing? So, you come from construction actually background. So, like what I understand, and these play actually major roles. Sometimes actually creating and and giving a birth to our passion. Sometimes, like when you what you see as a childhood, not necessarily for every single one, but I have a big belief that it does. It does do things to you where you're like, okay, this is what I want, and then you get more. You're leaning towards that a bit more. So all you seen probably as a child like construction. So you come from a construction background as your parents,
That's right.
as your dad. Is he still operational? Does he still do any construction?
Yeah,
work?
so he's doing houses right now. Like he's fixing up the house that he's living in. That's kind of how he likes to do it. It's just fix up the house that you live in and then sell it and move to a different house.
Oh, okay.
So because you also pay less tax that way, because if you live, I think it's a 1 year limit. You live in the house, then you don't have to pay capital
Property
gains tax
gain,
yeah.
capital gain.
Yeah, so he does it that way. I mean, he's on his second house because he just recently started, but he's working. He was working for a while for his with his uncle. His uncle runs a drywall company, so he was just helping him at that company, and he does a lot of different things. But what he's really taught me is how to learn different things, and like I've seen this guy do every single step of the process of rebuilding a house, doing the flooring, drywall, insulation, the roofing. We've done every step, and also finding the materials as cheap as possible. So he'll get deals through different guys to, he'll get one house he did actually, he did the roof was a slightly different color for the shingles on both sides of the roof, but it was barely noticeable. So because he got such a steal on the shingles, and he told it to the new owners, and oh yeah, we don't care, right? Because it's not visible. But
Yeah.
things like that, doing it as cheap as possible, but also as best as possible.
So does he do all the stuff by himself, like with his own hands?
Yeah,
or-
him and his buddies, and like he likes to do things himself. He does because when you hire people, you're oftentimes disappointed by
Yeah.
the service they deliver. I mean, not to say that there's not many good trades in the industry, but it's just when you do things yourself, you are always satisfied with the standard that the quality that's delivered.
Because
right?
it's your vision.
That's right,
in your
and
own
that's the way
eyes.
he is. He's more of an artist
By
type.
your own hands.
Yeah, he's more of an artist type. So even the ceiling in the house, he did all this fancy kind of like boxes, like that go into the ceiling, and like these LED lights inside, and like these fancy like drop down ceiling, like he was telling me, doing a
Gangster.
ceiling like that for someone like as a project is probably like 20-25 grand, and he just did it maybe in a couple days or stuff like that. But he just experimenting, with different techniques and stuff like that. So that's what I really admire is the ability to do that. And then he also fixes cars, right? So that's where I learned that as well. But I always kind of did my own thing though. Like he always did his own thing, and I always did my own thing. So even like I was helping him out with the construction, but I wasn't like actively learning all the stuff because I like to learn stuff on my own, right?
Gotcha.
We're both very stubborn that way. Like we both kind of just go and do our own thing, right? And that's how a lot of people in my family are, like a lot of my siblings and stuff like that. We all like to do our own thing,
Okay.
I'm sure you got that from your dad. He just
Yeah.
he taught
Well,
you
yeah.
that behavior.
A lot of the skills I got, they came from both my parents, from my mom and my dad. Like, just learning how to talk to people, learning, like I said, like being self-taught is really a skill I'm so grateful for to have gotten, because I see so many people even are asking me like, oh, how do you learn how to do this? I'm like, I just watch a YouTube video, For me, it's not that complicated, but lots of people like don't have the initiative to do that. They want
think-
someone to show them,
Yeah. I was saying
Just
that
lazy.
the other day. The best ability that human being have is, I think, the best blessing that we have is ability to learn.
Yeah.
It's just the best blessing. Imagine a world where you don't learn. You just wake up and you're stuck. Right? And you just know it, and that's all you know, right? And then you don't know anything further. You can't improve, or you can't.
Yeah,
that's it.
It sounds horrible.
Pretty much happy, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty much like the any other species. Pretty much like they only know what they know. Like you don't see a tiger making a chair, or a monkey even like building a house, other than what they just know genetically, like biology.
Instincts.
Yeah. There isn't like, hey, I it's been I don't know, millions of years we've been around, let's learn something new, right? Nope. they're doing same old shit.
Well, if it works, why change it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's as a human, it's our biggest blessing, I think, other than as compared to like there's so many blessings around us, just even the air, the oxygen, if we didn't have that. But I mean, biggest blessing that makes us different from other species is the ability to learn and just keep learning new things, right?
Yeah.
And there's so much to learn, so it's just.
And there's so much available as well. So much information available. Yeah. I mean, we have the internet. We can learn so many different things. And a lot of it is free as well. Like, even if some courses you can take for only maybe $50 and you get a 2 or 3 week course because it's all online. Yeah. Whereas you don't have to pay.
LinkedIn Learning, actually.
LinkedIn is great for that. Like, just going on there and taking like public speaking. Like I was talking before, like how to get better at public speaking, how to grow, like, you're having issues in your business, you can look at certain aspects of how you can improve different things, like and personal skills as well, like how to write properly, how to send emails, how to do resumes. So much can be found on LinkedIn. I mean, it's such a valuable tool.
Yeah. Okay, so I just want to go back to what we were discussing, and related to your work. Okay. So and then we'll probably just call it quits after a couple questions that I have. So one question that I have is actually around your trade. So I just want to know, we deal with, obviously as a general contractor, Pircon does a lot of these projects where we're doing these leasehold improvements and interior renovations. And a lot of our clients are restaurant owners and, kitchen owners. What is something you would give them as a tip that they should do as a practice to maintain and make better and maybe even save cost in their fire suppression system?
So a big thing is to know what appliances are going in place, to be organized with how are you going to position your appliances, which appliances are you going to get. I mean, depending on what appliances you get, you might have to get a bigger system to cover them, depending on the amount of appliances you get. So if you're a small business that the saving costs is really important, then you want to make sure that you're getting what you need. And I think that's important in business in general, is to make sure that when you start a business, you get only what you need. And it's a mistake I've done in the past that, you can so easily, I'm going to buy all this stuff. And so just stick to the appliances you need, and then we can make the fire suppression system to cover what you have, right?
Okay.
But just being organized is so important. I can't stress that enough. Even on the general contractors side, like you guys are really organized, but I've seen like some contractors. I don't want to name any names, but that they are completely lost with what's going on with the project, or they don't know like what the hood dimensions are, or like when are the docks going to be cut in and stuff. So it's important to be on schedule, as well as to know what's
the next step.
What is going on, and
so let me ask you this: is there any cost saving if you were to, depending on what the arrangement of the equipment is underneath the hood?
No, that there isn't really much savings in that aspect. The order of the appliances, it's mainly like how many appliances you have.
Okay.
Because the way the system works,
so number of appliances, not the order. Order doesn't really matter.
The order does matter when it's time to actually do the installation, because a lot of guys they don't have the appliances in place, and they tell me like, go ahead and install the system. And so for people who don't know the system, when you have your appliance, you need to make sure you have the nozzle that comes down which is where the chemical comes out if you have a fire, and it has to be properly centered and everything like that. So if I'm going to go ahead and put all those nozzles in place, I have to make sure that the appliances are going to be underneath in the proper order to cover them. So the order is mainly prior to like maybe a couple days prior to the installation. I have to make sure everything is properly in place, but it doesn't really affect the price. I mean, it would affect the price if you have to do a second trip. Like, let's say they're missing appliances or they need to make changes, then we do a second trip. That might cost them more. But generally speaking, it doesn't add any additional cost.
Gotcha. Okay, and then my second question around that is that what makes you think that you are better than your competitors? And I don't mean like to create a huge war here, but I'm just any other fire suppression. What do you think that you are doing differently or better than you have experienced or you've witnessed with them?
Well,
Trash talking, bro.
Well, well, like you guys are saying, I don't want to trash talk any companies. I don't want to name any names.
No.
Like, we're all working together. We're all trying to make money, right? At the end of the day. But but what I think sets us apart is that we are focused. I am focused on the quality of the work. So making sure the system from start to finish is operational. That goes for the installations and also for the inspections, right? So I make sure, especially for the inspections actually, because we go into a lot of places where there's a lot of grease and maybe the nozzles are plugged and stuff like that. So if the nozzles are plugged, the chemical can't come out, and the chemical is what puts out the fire, right? So part of the inspections is checking the nozzles, making sure that they're unplugged. If they were plugged, we unplug them, right? We clean them out, and making sure that every different aspect of the system is going to work as it should. I mean, there's cartridges in the system. That's another thing. Sometimes we go and we open the cover of the control head and the cartridge is unscrewed. And if that cartridge is unscrewed, the system is completely useless. Like, if they have a fire, it's not going to actuate. So stuff like that. Companies are kind of, it's sometimes it's, well, I mean, it falls back on the company, but it also falls back on the technicians, because in our field, the liability falls on the technician, but also on the company, right? So both. So if you're a technician and you just don't care and you're doing whatever you want, eventually that can fall back on you. So there was even a case with a company out of Okotoks that got sued recently that most people in the industry know about, and that they had a big problem with that, where a lot of the technicians weren't certified to do the work, and so they had a lot of legal proceedings and stuff. I think they had a $250,000 fine from the fire department. They went out of business, and that's because people weren't caring about the work. So a really important thing that I want to do is make sure, as I bring on technicians, I will be training them myself and making sure that they are doing the proper job. And there's a lot of steps that companies skip that I want to make sure we're doing as part of these inspections.
Very key.
And even if I have to eat the cost for doing that extra work, I will do that, because it's life safety systems. So it's very important to make sure it's functioning properly.
I do have a question. I know we're about to land the plane. I can read a deal, but I know. So I know you work with a lot of businesses. What advice would you give to someone that owns a restaurant that wants to keep their restaurant safe from a fire?
Yeah, so that's a good question, actually. So one thing that's really important is training your staff. So even on such a basic thing as how to use a fire extinguisher, because we had, at the last company I was at, we had fires that happened constantly at one of the A&Ws we were servicing.
Oh, wow.
And so every time we went there, they always called us and they said, listen, we used the fire extinguisher. And then I kept noticing they were using the ABC fire extinguisher, which is those red ones you see everywhere. And I'm like, well, guys, what are you using that on, right? And so they were using it to put out fires like by where the fryer is, right? So in the case of a fryer fire, you have to make sure that you're using a K-class, which is this big silver extinguisher. It has 6 liters. It's a wet chemical, not a powder. So that's what you're supposed to use in anywhere where there's going to be grease
underneath the hood.
That's right, under the hood, yeah. So and what I did is I actually trained them. So I trained, I think there was 3 or 4 staff there. And I told them, listen, this is how you use the fire extinguisher. Make sure you use this one. And guess what? Next time, that extinguisher was dispensed. So they did follow my advice and they used the correct extinguisher. And so that's one thing.
What was the reason that they kept having fire?
So they were just the way the employees were handling. Like I think it was something about the hash browns, like a paper, and they were bringing it close to where the fire exhaust was, like something like that. They were dropping it in, I think, and then it was getting pushed
And
out.
then
I love hash browns,
The,
man.
the automatic wouldn't happen. Like its
No,
own?
because it was too like the fire happened
too
so
small.
quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, it happened so quickly and so too small. Like for the system to actually actuate, you need to have like a higher heat, like more consistent heat. So when the fire
What's
starts
the
and gets going,
temperature that it needs to reach?
well, we actually set the different temperatures when we install the links. They're called links. They're the mechanical detection of the system. We set based on what appliances are there. We'll set maybe like some are 180 degrees Celsius, some are 280. And so we base it off of how much heat does the appliance produce. So if there is an influx in heat that happens, then the link is going to detect it, and that's what fires the system, right? But to go back to what you're saying about training, about what can you do as a restaurant owner, the training is very important. And as an owner, you can easily find out how to use an extinguisher, teach the pass method, right?
Pass method. Tell us that.
So how to use an extinguisher? So pulling. So you pull the pin, you aim. Sorry, you squeeze, and
Sweep.
sweep. Yeah. Sweep. Sorry, I was losing my train of thought. So yeah, you make sure you show your employees how to do the pass method and how to
On how to use a fire extinguisher, just in case you're wondering.
PASS, pull, aim, spray, and
sorry, squeeze,
squeeze and
sweep.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm getting tired, guys.
Yeah.
It's been a long day.
Yeah.
No, but yeah.
It's
So
okay.
training on the fire extinguisher, and then also maybe giving them a quick overview of how the fire suppression system operates.
Very important.
Yeah.
Very important. Like it's easy to get your and rebuild it all the time. Get your restaurant ready and everybody's excited. It's one thing having completed and have it open for grand opening. It's another thing to run it and to run it efficiently and run it properly. So there is a training, like you get your training for your franchise things and what you need to do. There is a training that that is needed to run your restaurant sound and safe, and things related to fire and life safety is very important. So pay attention to those, and this is what you get when you're with Pircon, and then when we have our sub trade. Those are the things that we kind of go with the owner towards the end stages and let them know how to operate all that stuff. So that's amazing.
Yeah. Is there anything else about fire safety that you want to share just before we wrap up? This is important for people who can save a life. So
Well, just as business owners, just making sure you do your inspections on time is the biggest thing. I mean, it can save you from, if you're outdated on your inspections, you can get problems with your insurance. But more importantly, you can, the equipment might not be operational in case of a fire, which is the biggest thing. And you might have injuries or property damage, and even worse, maybe death in some cases, in big buildings and stuff. Like there's recently been one, I think in the US, a building that was burning down and they didn't have sprinklers. Like these systems are there for a reason, right? And it's life safety, and it's very important to make sure.
Now, how often the inspection needs to happen?
So for the kitchen hood fire suppression systems, those are semi-annually. So you do them every 6 months. And then the fire extinguishers would be once a year. And that's the same with fire alarm and sprinkler systems.
Gotcha.
So,
And just for the cost, if one of our listeners wants to learn, how much does it cost for these inspections?
so it depends.
Just a range.
Yeah, it depends really on the size of the system. I mean, like small systems can be, anywhere from 135 to 150 for the inspection, and then you can get larger systems which might be upwards of $300. And then depending on what parts you have to change during the inspection, cartridges, links, things of that nature, it might be additional cost. But typically for restaurants, a standard rate might be somewhere around $250 to $300 with parts all in. It's something that you look at, you have to do every 6 months. A lot of guys see it as money they don't want to spend, but at the end of the day, it is very important, and you have to make sure you stay on top of it.
Right.
For sure. Yeah. Like, I know Adeel, you wanted to say something there, but I just wanted to say I know there was fire fire. There was a huge fire actually in the States. A huge train with chemicals it like blew up, and then huge fires everywhere. So like that's what this reminds me of, and it's good that podcast is timely because that could happen to you or your business or your town or city.
Oh yeah.
Construction is all about safety. I mean, that's the number one thing. Safety is number one. And then if there are things, so the construction itself, while you're doing that operation of construction, safety is important. But we build places, some of these places where safety is such a key thing that it needs to be in place and needs to be taken care of. And restaurants is actually one of them. The amount of safety infrastructure that goes into a restaurant that a lot of people won't realize is amazing. That one hood fan is connected to so many different things just for that reason. So if something goes wrong, like there is a whole system that take care of the safe procedure that's needed for that hood fan. That hood canopy, your exhaust fan stopped running, and then the makeup air stops running. So you click of one button, one pull, it just does a whole bunch of different things.
Oh yeah.
The fire alarm will go off, and it will send signals to the fire department. Most of the buildings we work, not the older buildings.
That's
And
advanced. That's cool.
Yeah, and the fire suppression systems also cut the gas, so they cut the gas to the appliances.
Exactly. Fire suppression will cut off the gas, the exhaust will stop running. So there's like a whole procedure in that system that goes. And this is what Martin is expert on. This is what he installed. He installed that very last piece, basically, that goes inside the hood canopy, which is the fire suppression system. So it's very important, for everyone running those businesses, and especially related to restaurants and these kind of businesses where you need these life safety instruments in there, that you maintain them properly, and then you got a staff who's familiar with that and they know where everything is inside the store. They're not running around looking for the pull station and they can't find the switch and things like that. So they got to be very educated about it, and they need to have people like Martin in there come by every 6 months, a year, and do those inspections and make sure everything is up to date.
Yeah, that's right.
Very solid. Yeah, I think today we got a very handful information from Martin, and Martin, it's been a pleasure having you here.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
You've been great. There is actually a lot of learning. I'm sure our listeners, a lot of them are business owners and restaurants owner, and then they'll take away some key lesson from this podcast. Also, for our listeners who are entrepreneur and business owners, it's a very key podcast for them, because Martin is a great example of starting a business and actually jumping from 1 to 2 in a very young age. And he got the right plans to set it up and be something. So, and he's very organized and knows what he needs to do, but he's also very aware that it's a very tough road and he's going to have to make a lot of sacrifices and work all the time pretty much in order to get there. So the mindset is very important, and that's the key for a lot of these new business entrepreneurs, that you would think in an industry is doing well and you want to start a business, and then you get in and you're like, oh, I didn't realize a lot of work. And that's where, if you did it around your passion, you just got to do it long enough to know it, and you get there. There's a lot of hard work that's involved, and that's where your education comes in such a play. Like, more you know, more you learn what you're doing, sooner you'll also have access to the excellence.
That's right.
Yeah, I feel like I've learned a lot today in this call, and especially fire suppression. So that just opened up my ammunition, so I can talk to more people about this.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, Martin, is there anything last final words you want to share?
No, I think we pretty much touched on everything. I don't know if there's anything you guys want to cover. Or...
Yeah, I was gonna give a company outro, but I'll wait till you're done.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean.
Is there any way we could reach you or get in touch with you? Actually.
Oh yeah. So you can reach me at my business number 825-733-3686. 3473. If you have any needs of fire suppression, fire extinguisher inspections, service, you need a system installed, just let me know. You can also go to my website, defensefirepro.com. That's DEFENSE firepro.com.
Awesome.
Yes, guys. So thank you for tuning in to the Adeel Pirzada podcast, episode number 16, hosted by the Pircon Group. I forgot to tell you all about us earlier, but as you can tell, we're wearing two great shirts. Martin shirt's nice too, but ours is nicer. So sponsored by the Pircon Group, commercial construction experts. We do commercial, retail construction, restaurant construction. So just like we were discussing earlier, if you're looking to build a restaurant, fire suppression is needed. Our team can help you do the full build, manage the full project for you. You could go ahead and visit our website, pircongroup.com, Pircon group.com. And the link will be down below. Martin's info will be down below. So get in touch and let's get started.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in and being part of this podcast. If you have any questions or comments, do let us know and do hit the like button. And Martin, thanks a lot for being here.
Awesome.
I always say to our guests, this is the first one, not the last one. So we'll definitely see you here again and maybe some more updates about your journey and about your business and your passion. So, but this was great. And then we'll look forward to the next one for sure.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Have a good one.